in Christ, Derek, sent me this article, said that I might be interested in it, and he was absolutely correct. And I wanted to read it out loud, share it with you guys while I have the little bit of time that I do have. This is talking about kind of like a scenario that I had mentioned that I could foresee happening. Theirs is a little bit different view and stuff, but who knows? Honestly, who knows? So I'm going to read this. This was written in 1994, originally published, I should say, and it is entitled Project Bluebeam by Serge Monast. Project Bluebeam. Note, Serge Monast, 1945, December 5th, 1996, and another journalist, both of whom were researching Project Bluebeam, died of heart attacks within weeks of each other, although neither had a history of heart disease. Serge was in Canada. The other Canadian journalist was visiting Ireland. Prior to his death, the Canadian government abducted Serge's daughter in an attempt to dissuade him from pursuing his research into Project Bluebeam. His daughter was never returned. Pseudo heart attacks are one of the alleged methods of death induced by Project Bluebeam. Update from Ken Adashai, February 17th, 2009. I'm only beginning to now fully grasp the entire breadth of Serge Monast's contributions to humanity and the unbelievable courage he demonstrated in coming out with these incredible revelations, which were secretly or anonymously given to him by contrite politicians, military people, or intelligence people who still possessed a conscience and a sense of humanity. A required companion piece in this article is an astoundingly accurate prophetic discourse presented by Serge in 1994 to Canadian Free Press of Quebec, Canada. The planned NASA Illuminati script that Serge revealed in that 1994 talk could be taken directly from today's headlines. The transcript of that talk is found here, and it's at educateyourself.org. So you could go to that. December 1996. Let's see. A member of our accountability structure, Dorothy Dart, reports that a Canadian investigator into New Age globalism, Serge Monast, has died of a heart attack. This man has faithfully exposed the New World Order for the last decade. His children were homeschooled, so the authorities took his 8-year-old daughter away. Then his 7-year-old son was taken. As they said, the parents were abusing them emotionally by stopping the children going to a state school. The father was then arrested and spent the night in jail. Next day at home, he had a heart attack. He was 46 years old. This brave man has left a wife who now has no family. Pray that she can get her little ones back. Our source said that the Canadian investigator, Serge Monast, I think it's Monast, wrote to her in Australia not long ago, saying he had been threatened many times and did not expect to survive. NASA's Project Bluebeam. I missed the call, I'm sorry. By Serge Monast, 1994. The infamous NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, Bluebeam Project, has 4 different steps in order to implement the New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head. Now, I want to stop there. The reason I'm going to stop there just for a minute, I want you to always have in the back of your mind, always, that the Vatican is the head of all of these alphabet organizations. The Jesuits and the Vatican are the leader of all of these things. Always have that in your mind, okay? We must remember that the New Age religion is the very foundation for the New World Government, without which religion, the dictatorship of the New World Order, is completely impossible. I'll repeat that. Without a universal, which is Catholicism, Catholic, that's what it means, belief in the New Age religion, the success of the New World Order will be impossible. That is why the Blue Beam Project is so important to them, but has been so well hidden until now. Engineered earthquakes and hoaxed discoveries. The first step in the NASA Bluebeam project concerns the breakdown, reevaluation of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with the setup with artificially created earthquakes at certain precise locations on the planet of supposedly new discoveries, which will finally explain to all people the error of all fundamental religious doctrines. The falsification of this information will be used to make all nations believe that their religious doctrines have been misunderstood for centuries and misinterpreted. Psychological preparations for that first step have already been implemented with the film 2001 A Space Odyssey, the Star Trek series, and Independence Day, all of which deal with invasions from space and the coming together of all nations to repel the invaders. The last film's Jurassic Park deals with the theories of evolution and claimed God's words are lies. Hoaxed discoveries. What is important to understand in the first step is that those earthquakes will hit at different parts of the world where scientific and archaeological teachings have indicated that arcane mysteries have been buried. By those types of earthquakes, it will be possible for scientists to rediscover those arcane mysteries, which will be used to discredit all fundamental religious doctrines. This is the first preparation for the plan for humanity, because what they want to do is destroy the beliefs of all Christians and Muslims on the planet. To do that, they need some false proof from the far past that will prove to all nations that their religions have all been misinterpreted and misunderstood. The big space show in the sky. The second step in the NASA Bluebeam project involves a gigantic space show with three-dimensional optical holograms and sounds, laser projection of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to the predominating regional, national religious faith. The new God's voice will be speaking in all languages. In order to understand that, we must study various secret services research done in the last 25 years. The Soviets had perfected an advanced computer, even exported them, and fed them with the minute physio-psychological particulars based on their studies of the anatomy and electromechanical composition of the human body and the studies of the electrical, chemical, and biological properties of the human brain. These computers were fed, as well, with the languages of all human cultures and their meanings. The dialects of all cultures have been fed into the computers with satellite transmissions. The Soviets began to feed the computers with objective programs like the one of the new Messiah. It also seems that the Soviets, the New World Order people, have resorted to suicidal methods with the human society by allocating electronic wavelengths for every person in every society and culture to induce suicidal thoughts if the person doesn't comply with the dictates of the New World Order. There are two different aspects of two steps. The first is the space show. Where does the space show come from? The space show, the holographic images, will be used in a simulation of the ending during which all nations will be shown scenes that will be the fulfillment of that which they desire to verify the prophecies and adversary events. There will be projected from satellites onto the sodium layer about 60 miles above the Earth. We see tests every once in a while, but they are called UFOs and flying saucer sightings. The result of these deliberately staged events will be showed to the world the new Christ, the new Messiah. I can never pronounce that thing's name. Maitreya. Maitreya, for the immediate implementation of the New World Order. Enough truth will be foisted upon an unsuspecting world to hook them into the lie. Even the most learned will be deceived. The project has perfected the ability for some device referred to as a tractor beams by UFOologists to lift up an enormous number of people, as in a rapture, and whisk the entire group into a never never land. We see tests of this device in the abduction of humans by those mysterious little alien greys who snatch people out of their beds and through windows into waiting motherships. The calculated resistance to the universal religion and the new Messiah and the ensuing holy wars will result in the loss of human life on a scale never imagined before in all of human history. The Blue Beam Project will pretend to be the universal fulfillment of the prophecies of old, as major an event as that which occurred 2,000 years ago. In principle, it will make use of the skies as a movie screen on the sodium layer at about 60 miles. As space-based laser-generating satellites project simultaneous images to the four corners of the planet in every language and dialect according to the region. It deals with the religious aspect of the New World Order and is deception and seduction on a massive scale. Computers will coordinate the satellites, and software already in place will run the sky show. Holographic images are based on nearly identical signals combining to produce an image of hologram with deep perspective, which is equally applicable to acoustic ELF, VLF, and LF waves and optical phenomena. Specifically, the show will consist of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to the specific national, regional religion. Not a single area will be excluded, with computer animation and sounds appearing to emanate from the very depths of space. Astonished, ardent followers of the various creeds will witness their own returned Messiah in convincing, lifelike reality. Then the projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, etc., will merge into one after correct explanations of the mysteries and revelations will have been disclosed. This one God will, in fact, be the Antichrist, who will explain that the various scriptures have been misunderstood and misinterpreted, and that the religions of old are responsible for turning brother against brother and nation against nation. Therefore, old religions must be abolished to make way for the new age, new world religion, representing the one God, Antichrist, they see before them. Naturally, this superbly staged falsification will result in dissolved social and religious disorder on a grand scale, each nation blaming the other for the deception, setting loose millions of programmed religious fanatics through demonic possession on a scale never witnessed before. In addition, this event will occur at a time of profound worldwide political anarchy and general tumult created by some worldwide catastrophe. The United Nations even now plan to use Beethoven's Song of Joy as the anthem for the introduction of the New Age one world religion. If we put this space show in parallel with the Star Wars program, we get this combination of electromagnetic radiation and hypnosis, which have also been the subject of intense research. In 1974, for instance, researcher G.F. Chapitz said of one of the research proposals that in this investigation, it will be shown that the spoken words of the hypnotist may also be converted by electromagnetic energy directly and to the subconscious part of the human brain without employing any mechanical device for receiving or transporting the message, and without the person exposed to such influence having a chance to control the information input consciously. It may be expected that the rationalized behavior will be considered to have been taken out of their own free will. Well, remember, this is back in the 90s. They had no idea Elon Musk and Neuralink and all of this other stuff was going to be taking place, just a few short years on the horizon from when he wrote this. So we got to keep all that in mind. Anyone investigating so-called channeling phenomena right now would be wise to take this area of research into consideration. It would be noted that those who think of themselves as channelers has escalated rapidly since this type of research was conducted. It is uncanny how similar their messages are, despite which entity they claim to be their source of divine guidance. It would suggest any individual considering the credibility of channeled information would be discerning and critically evaluate where the message they are receiving originates, and if the messages are specifically beneficial to the new world order. The Sydney Morning Newspaper published an item on March 21st, 1983, which denounced that the Soviets were invading the human mind, the article having been submitted to the foreign editor by Dr. Nathan Abenugi, assistant professor in the Faculty of Agriculture in Asia. It is worth quoting the article at length, even though his grammar is a little odd. This article relates to the Soviets who created the supercomputer we were discussing earlier, and which is really important because these three types of computers can be run through satellites and through space. The computers were fed with all the different languages and their meanings. The dialects of all peoples were fed to the computers with objective programs. But we are no longer talking about the Soviets. We're talking about the United Nations, the minions of the New World Order who are feeding the computers with the necessary information. The editor of the column in which the article appeared even states that the piece made points too important to ignore. I think it is possible that the persons who have created this mega mind control program could sell the software to an organization and not be aware that the client must use the program and data to enslave all of humankind. Just imagine how far they have advanced since that article was published, and even now. Artificial thought and communication. The advancement of techniques propelled us toward the third step in the Blue Beam project that goes along with the telepathic and electronically augmented two-way communication where ELF, VLF, and LF waves will reach each person from within his or her own mind, convincing each of them that their own God is speaking to them from the very depths of their own soul. And I think that's where 5G and stuff comes in. Such rays from satellites are fed from the memories of computers that have stored massive data about every human on Earth. And then here comes social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those things, even YouTube, all of them, Twitch, you name it, you got it. They know who you are and their languages. The rays will then interlace with their natural thinking to form what we call diffuse artificial thought. That kind of technology goes into the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s research where the human brain has been compared to a computer. Information is fed in, processed, integrated, and then a response is formulated and acted upon. Mind controllers manipulate information the same way a computer programmer manipulates information. In January 1991, the University of Arizona hosted a conference entitled the NATO Advanced Research Workshop on Current and Emergent Phenomena and Biomolecular Systems. What does that mean exactly? It means this. We refer to one paper that was delivered at the conference, which stands out for its different attitude towards the development under discussion at that time. It was, in fact, a protest and chilling warning to the attending scientists about the potential abuse of this research findings. Their findings, of course, stated that the United States has already developed communication equipment which can make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk. It can relieve the terminally ill from pain without the use of drugs or surgery. I'm not talking about science fiction. A man might retain the use of all his faculties right up to the moment of his death. This communications equipment depends upon a completely new way of looking at the human brain and neuromuscular systems and radiation pulses at ultra low frequencies. Isn't that amazing? It sounds like who Elon Musk came out with. But it was all the way back there, brothers and sisters. You do understand. You're seeing this. I pray to God your eyes are being opened. Some of this equipment is now operational within the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. It will never be used to make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk because it is central to the domestic political agenda and foreign policy of George Bush and his puppet masters of the New World Order. Domestically, the new communications equipment is being used to torture and murder persons who match profiles imagined to be able to screen a given population for terrorists, to torture and murder citizens who belong to organizations which promote tolerance and peace and development in Central America, to torture and murder citizens who belong to organizations who oppose the development and deployment of nuclear weapons, and to create a race of slave cult automatons, or what is popularly called the Manchurian candidates. Overseas experimentation is taking place on hostages held by the United States and Canada, Great Britain, Australia, Germany, Finland, and France. Additionally, there has been a long series of bizarre suicides among British computer scientists. Hold on, I got this. Yeah. All of whom have had some connection to the United States Navy. What is possible to ask before such a psychological of terror is this: would any government, cooperation, or psychiatrist willfully promote such horror today? The answer is quite obviously yes. Government agencies and the corporations that work within them toward a new world order are prepared to promote anything that will help them achieve their objective of total social control. As for the question of why, for one thing, if you terrify the public and make them fear for their safety, they will allow you to implement draconian law enforcement practice, disarm them, and keep them extensive records on. Oh my God, how long ago was this written? Okay. On them, and they only have to tell you that it is all to protect you, of course. Secondly, it promotes the decay of the present democratic forms of political systems and leads societies to search for alternative methods of political ideology. Of course, the alternative has already been planned. It is called the New World Order, and it will not have your safety or interest at heart. As George Bush said, read my lips. Fear has always been used by powerful elite to control and subjugate the masses. The old maximum, divide and conquer, is being played out to the limit worldwide to ensure that everyone is frightened for their personal safety and to be suspicious of everyone else. Imagine that. This, too, is mind control. To go further in regard to the new technology, which is at the base of the NASA Blue Beam Project, we have to consider this statement by psychologist James V. McConnell, which was published in a 1970s issue of Psychology Today. He said, "The day has come when we can combine sensory deprivation with drug hypnosis and astute manipulation of reward and punishment to gain almost absolute control over an individual's behavior. It should then be possible to achieve a very rapid and highly effective type of positive brainwashing that would allow us to make dramatic changes in a person's behavior and personality." Now, when we talk before about that kind of ray and telepathic and electronically augmented communication, the kind of rays that are fed from the memories of computers, which store massive data about humans, human language, and dialects. And we said that the people will be reached from within, making each person to believe that his own God is speaking directly from within his or her own soul. We refer to that kind of technology and that kind of thinking that same psychologist was espousing. That is, we should be trained from birth that we should all do what society wants to do rather than what we want to do for ourselves. That because they have the technology to do it. No one should now be allowed to have their own individual personality. Mm-mm-mm. This statement and these ideas are important because it is the basic teaching of the United Nations that no one owns his or her own personality. And that same psychologist claims that no one has any say-so about the kind of personality they acquire, and there is no reason to believe you have the right to refuse to acquire a new personality if your old personality is considered antisocial. Why is it important in this declaration is that the New World Order will be set up over the current system, meaning the old way of thinking and behavior and religion will be considered the old and incorrect way of thinking, and that they can change it at one of the eradication camps of the United Nations to make sure that anyone with this antisocial behavior will be disposed of quickly so that other modified individuals will be able to fulfill the needs and agendas of the New World Order without being distracted by the truth. Could this be the greatest mind control project ever? The NASA Blue Beam Project is the prime directive for the New World Order's absolute control over the population of the entire Earth. I would suggest you to investigate this information carefully before dismissing it as a fanatic lunacy. If we go further in the different reports we have presented, we find that the mind control operations and technology include a transmitter that broadcasts at the same frequency as the human nervous system, which transmitter is manufactured by the Loral Electro-Optical System in Pasadena, California. Loral, a major defense contractor, has previously conducted research on directed energy weapons for Lieutenant General Leonard Perez of the U.S. Air Force, who was searching for a weapon that could implant messages into the minds of the enemy while urging his own troops on to superhuman deeds of valor. The device employs electromagnetic radiation of gigahertz frequencies, microwaves, pulse at extremely low oh my, am I hearing this correctly? We're talking 5G, people, right here. Pulse at extremely low frequencies, ELF. It is used to torture people both physically and mentally from a distance. Weapons of this type are thought to have been used against a British woman protesting the presence of American cruise missiles at Greenham Common Air Base during the 1970s. This weapon can be used to induce total sensory deprivation by broadcasting signals into the auditory nerve at such high power that it blocks the ability of the individual to hear themselves think. The process employed by such ELF technology are described in various U.S. Defense Department publications, including one entitled The Electromagnetic Spectrum and Low Intensity Conflict by Captain Paul E. Tyler, Medical Commandant, U.S. Navy, which is included in a collection entitled Low Intensity Conflict and Modern Technology Edict by Lieutenant Colonel David G. Dean, USAF. The paper was delivered in 1984 and the collection published in 1986 by Air University Press at Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama. These pulse microwave devices can deliver audible signals directly to an individual while remaining undetectable to anyone else. The technology is very simple and can be built by using an ordinary police radar gun. The microwave beam generated by the device is modulated at auto frequencies and can broadcast messages directly into the brain. Now, here we come to the NASA Blue Beam Project. The broadcasting of subliminal two-way communication and images from the depths of space correspond directly to that kind of technology. In his book, The Body Electric, Nobel Prize nominee Dr. Robert O. Becker describes a series of experiments conducted in the early 1960s by Alan Fry, where this phenomena was demonstrated, as well as latter experiments conducted in 1973 at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research by Dr. Joseph C. Sharp, who personally underwent tests in which he proved he could hear and understand messages delivered to him in an echo-free isolation chamber via a pulse microwave audiogram, which is an analog of the word's sound vibration beamed into his brain. Becker then goes on to state, such a device has obvious application for covert operations designed to drive a target crazy with unknown voices or deliver undetectable instructions to a programmed assassin. Now, figure out when we hear that voice from the New World Messiah, who would be speaking from space to all the sane people of the earth, who might give instructions to zealots and religious fanatics, who would see hysteria and social mayhem on a scale never witnessed before on this planet. No police forces in the world, even a combined front, could deal with the disorder that will follow. In 1978, book entitled Microwave Auditory Effect and Application by James C. Lynn describes how audible voices can be broadcast directly into the brain. This technology could actually allow the blind to see and the deaf to hear. Instead, it has been turned into a weapon to enslave the world. Alan Fry also reports that he could speed up, slow down, or stop the hearts of isolated frogs by synchronizing the pulsed rate of a microwave beam with the heart itself. According to Dr. Robert Becker, similar results have been obtained using live frogs, which shows that it is technically feasible to produce heart attacks with rays designed to penetrate the human chest. Editor's note: both the author of this report and his colleague died of heart attacks only days apart. I should mention also that Dr. Becker does not participate in such research. It has been demonstrated that focused ultra-high frequency, UHF, electromagnetic energy beams can be used to induce considerable agitation and muscular activity or induce muscular weakness and lethargy. Microwaves can also be used to burn human skin and aid the effects of drugs, bacteria, and poisons, or affect the function of the entire brain. Yeah, I ain't doing radiation. Oh, Lord have mercy. These effects were all revealed at length by the CIA on September 21st, 1977, in testimony before the Subcommittee on Health and Scientific Research. Dr. Sidney Galib, who directed the MK Ultra program at that time, was forced to discuss the scope of the CIA's research to find techniques of activation of the human organism by remote electronic means. So this is something that exists right now that has been pursued to its highest degree, that can be used from space to reach any person, any place on the face of the earth. And hence we got 5G, which just has helped it along 20, 30 years later. If we go deeper in that process of mind control over the people, we find that the equipment and technology has been used to influence politics in a much more direct fashion. Michael Dukakis, the Democratic candidate running against George Bush in the 1988 election, was targeted with microwave technology in order to impede his public speaking performance once the public opinion polls showed he posed a serious threat to Bush's election prospects. He also claims that the equipment was used against Kitty Dukakis and drove her to the brink of suicide. In the Disneyland world of U.S. politics, a presidential candidate with problems such as these would obviously lose their race to the White House. In the December of 1980 edition of the U.S. Army Journal, called The Military Review, a column by Lieutenant Colonel John B. Alexander entitled The New Mental Battlefield, Beam Me Up, Spock, provides further insight into the technical capabilities at the disposal of the comptroller. He writes, several examples will demonstrate areas in which progress has been made. The transference of energy from one organism to another, the ability to heal or cause disease to be transmitted over a distance, thus inducing illness or death from no apparent cause. Telepathic behavior modification, which includes the ability to induce hypnotic states up to a distance of 1,000 kilometers, have been reported. The use of telepathic hypnosis also holds great potential. This capability could allow agents to be deeply planted with no conscious knowledge of their programming. In movie terms, the Manchurian Candidate lives and does not even require a telephone call. Other mind-to-mind induction techniques are being considered. If perfected, this capability could allow the direct transference of thought via telepathy from one mind or group of minds to a select target audience. The unique factor is that the recipient will not be aware that thought has been implanted from an external source. He or she will believe the thought are original. What is this Manchurian project or candidate? I'm going to have to look that up. I don't even know what that is. All right. This is exactly what we are talking about. The third step in NASA Bluebeam project is called the telepathic electronic two-way communication. Lieutenant Colonel John Alexander article continues. If it is possible to feed artificial thought into the multigenetic field via satellite, the mind control of the entire planet is now possible. An individual's only resistance would be constantly question the motivation behind their thoughts and not act upon thoughts which they consider to be outside their own ideological, religious, and moral boundaries. So test every thought, cast it down, bring it unto the obedience of Christ Jesus. Absolutely. Once again, it is wise to consider how television, advertising, modern education, and various types of social pressure are used to manipulate those boundaries. It has been reported by Lieutenant Colonel Alexander, who said in the summary of his Military Review article, the information on those kinds of technologies presented here would be considered by some to be ridiculous, since it does not conform to their view of reality. But some people still believe the world is flat. How funny. But now we've got, like I said, we got the internet. We've got Alexa that's over there, hears everything. See, she just turned on. We got these little Zoom robot vacuum cleaners or whatever they are. We got things everywhere. Everywhere. It's foolish. Okay. Now, this means a lot because if people do not believe this kind of technology is possible or that it is science fiction, those people put themselves in great jeopardy. Because on the night when those 1,000 stars will shine from space, during the night when the new Messiah will be presented to the world, they will not be prepared and will have no time to prepare to save themselves against that kind of technology. They don't believe and they won't take time to prepare. This is exactly what happens to people who are convinced by Satan into believing that he doesn't exist. So they have no defense against him. Yeah, that's true. Universal supernatural manifestations via electronics. The fourth step concerns the universal supernatural manifestation with electronic means. It contains 3 different orientations. 1 is to make mankind believe that an alien, off-world invasion is about to occur at every major city on earth. And what is happening right now? Everyone is showing, it's left and right on the news, police reports, pilots, all these people are saying they've seen this, they've seen this. They're not even hiding it anymore. No, because they're bringing it out purposely because it's not real, but in order to indoctrinate so people will believe. Let me continue. One is to make mankind believe that an alien off-world invasion is about to occur at every major city on Earth in order to provoke each major nation to use its nuclear weapons in order to strike back. This way, the United Nations Court will require that all those nations which launched nuclear weapons to disarm when the invasion is shown to have been false. And how, wow, that is something else, yeah. Will require that all those nations which launched nuclear weapons to disarm when the invasion is shown to have been false. And how will the United Nations know the invasion was false? They will have staged it, of course. The second is to make the Christians believe that the rapture is going to occur with the supposed divine intervention of an alien off-world civilization coming to rescue earthlings from a savage and merciless demon. Its goal will be to dispose of all significant opposition to the implementation of the New World Order in one major stroke, actually within hours of the beginning of the Sky Show. The third orientation and the fourth step is a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces. The waves used at that time will allow supernatural forces to travel through optical fibers, coaxial cables, TV, electrical and phone lines in order to penetrate to everyone at once through major appliances. But we already know no. Why? We got wireless. We got cell phones everywhere. We got all of this already. We don't need no landlines. The goal of this deal with global satanic ghosts projected all over the world in order to push all populations to the edge of the hysteria and madness, to drown them into a wave of suicide, murder, and permanent psychological disorders. After the night of the 1,000 stars, worldwide populations will be ready for the new Messiah to reestablish order and peace at any cost, even at the cost of abdication of freedom. Phasing out cash and independence. I can understand why they kill these people because they're pretty well spot on. They just didn't realize how advanced technology was going to come. The techniques used in the fourth step is exactly the same used in the past in the USSR to force the people to accept communism. The same technique will be used by the United Nations to implement the New World Religion and the New World Order. A lot of people ask when this is going to happen and how they will accomplish the visions of the night of 1,000 stars and the events that will point to the days when it will begin. According to the many kind of in-between currency before they introduce their electron will be used to force anyone with savings to spend or turn in their cash because they understand that people who have money are not dependent upon them might be the very ones who will mount an insurrection against them. If everyone is broke, no one can fund a war of any kind. Paper currency will cease to exist. This is one of the first signs. But to implement the worldwide electronic money system, everyone in the world who might have money in the future will have to have a way to transfer money electronically. Before that time, everyone will have, okay, I think I'm back on here. It had stopped for some reason. But to implement the worldwide electronic money system, everyone in the world who might have money in the future will have to have a way to transfer money electronically. Before that time, everyone will have spent, before the year 2000, all of their cash reserves and assets, which we know that didn't happen. They set it back. Everyone has to be 100% dependent upon the council for their existence. To prevent any kind of independence, the New World Order has already implanted microchips in wild animals, birds, fish, etc. Why? They want to make certain that people will not accept the New World Order, who will not accept the New World Order, will not be able to hunt or fish anywhere in the world. If they try, they will be tracked and traced by satellites, then hunted down and imprisoned or killed. And that's true. I know a person, he passed away a couple years ago, but he had killed one of the sandhill cranes just to see, he wanted to see what it tasted right? Tasted like. He killed it, got it all prepared, put it in the freezer, and DNR knocked on his door because they tracked that animal that he killed. Now he could have went to prison, but thank God they had leniency on him. All right. The New World Order is already changing the laws of all nations to make everyone dependent upon a single food and vitamin supply. They are changing laws about religion and psychiatric disorders in order to identify anyone who is potentially threatening to the NWO. Those who are found defective will be sent to eradication camps where their organs will be taken and sold to the highest bidders. Whoa. Those who are not killed outright will be used as slave labor or used in medical experiments. The goal of a dictatorship is to control everyone, everywhere on the planet, ruthlessly and without exception. That's why the new technology being introduced everywhere is a technology for the control of the people. The technology of the 1940s and 50s was used to help the people have an easier and more productive life. The new technology is designed and built to track down and control people everywhere. This technology is being manufactured for a specific purpose, and to refuse to see and recognize that purpose, which is to enslave the entire populations of the world, is to deny the emergence of the Antichrist and the establishment of the New World Order, religion, and government. If you cannot see, if you cannot learn, if you cannot understand, then you and your family and friends will succumb to the fires of the crematoria that have been built in every state and every major city on earth, built to deal with you. No one is safe in a totalitarian police state. Serge Monast. Wow. And that was written when? 1994, you guys. So that ends that article. There's so many more. I really wish my computer worked, but it does not. So I have to use these little phones, but I'm going to log this page in and I'm going to be reading by the grace of God. All right, brothers and sisters. Oh, right here, cell phone towers. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Absolutely. Your nose in the book, which is the Word of God. And embed the Word of God upon the tablets of your hearts, so you and I will not sin against God or be deceived. I love you all so very much. Bye-bye.